Welcome to NYMLB Talk, New York's #1 baseball podcast. Now here's your hosts, Chris Pizzaya and Rob Maraska.
Welcome back to a new episode of NYMLB Talk with your hosts, Rob and Chris. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter/X at NYMLB Talk. You can follow Rob at R Maraska. You can follow myself at CP7NY. And you could subscribe to our YouTube page, which would be awesome. Just click that subscribe button. That would be great. We appreciate that. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Both teams had a busy weekend, did really well. So we're going to start with the Mets because they had the better weekend, I think, playing the Dodgers. Rob, what's going on, man?
Hey, Chris, both teams had a pretty good weekend. We were talking about it off the air the other day on Friday when the Yankees lost to Colorado, and you said, "Oh man, if this is going to happen, this is bad." But everything turned out. You know, the Mets took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. The Mets could have swept the series. In fact, Friday night game was a crazy game because it looked like neither team wanted to win that game, going 13 innings. With the ghost runner, nobody could score. It was crazy. The Mets had so many opportunities to score throughout that whole game, and they kept doing what they've been doing a lot this year, leaving runners in scoring position. That's what the Mets do, you know, no matter what. Last year, when they started to play really well and had the best second half in baseball, they were still leaving some runners in scoring position. The year before, the Mets always leave runners in scoring position. So Friday night, no one wanted that game until the Dodgers finally scored a few runs and they took Friday's game. But then the Mets, you know, and all the Met fans were moaning on social media. I was reading it. This is the end. There was a couple of them who really were going crazy, who have YouTube channels and who have TikTok pages, and they were just going nuts. But Saturday, the Mets come back and they win. And, you know, 5-2, Soto finally got a hit with a meaningful hit, okay?
A meaningful hit.
Yeah, he hit a double, he knocked in a couple of runs, and everything was all right in Queens. So the Mets won that game 4-2. Peterson pitched pretty well. And you're thinking to yourself, all right, let's see if we come over the hump. Sunday, the Mets win 3-1. Alonso hits a home run, and he finally gets out of that slump he was in. Chris, Alonso started out great. He carried the team, let's face it. You know, yeah. Lindor did, you know, was hitting too. Usually Lindor doesn't hit early. He hit really well in April too. But then all of a sudden, everyone started to slump at the same time, and Alonso went on a little drought. Well, Sunday he hit a home run, and Senga pitched, you know, pretty good. So the Mets won. So they took the series from the Dodgers, which I'm happy about. Really happy, because if they would have lost that series, or if they would have got swept, then, you know, we're at the end of May. And
we've seen the Soto shuffle this weekend, so that's a good sign. I think that's a good sign.
You called it on Friday. You said, I think you'll see the Soto shuffle on, you know, this weekend, and you're right. We did.
I think he's going to be fine the rest of the way. You know, like, yeah, he's still struggling. I get it offensively, but he'll be fine. You know, the guys, you know what he's shown us these first couple of months is that he's human, right? The guy is human. He's, listen, signing that huge contract, you know, it's the biggest contract in North American sports. So, you know what? He's shown us that he's human. Like, he's just like all of us. He feels the pressure. So once that fades away, and he'll be fine very soon. I think he's starting to settle in. You've seen the shuffle, right? That came back this weekend. So got a hit, like you said, a pretty big hit. So I'm sure he'll be fine the rest of the way. So.
Yeah, that double actually looked like it could have went out. A lot of balls this weekend looked like they were going out of Citi Field, and they didn't. So, you know, he looked pretty good. Then yesterday, on Monday, the Mets play the White Sox, and the White Sox held the Mets, you know, scoreless until the 8th inning, and, you know, the Mets scored, and this, the worries stopped, because if they would have lost to the White Sox, that would almost been like when the Yankees lost to Colorado the other night.
Yeah.
But the key was that the Mets win the game on a walk-off sacrifice fly by Lindor. And when they were celebrating, they got Mets on-field announcer Steve Gelbs with the Gatorade, by the way. So that was pretty funny. But when they were celebrating, Soto was right there celebrating with them. He looked happy. So let's stop all this stuff where he's miserable, and in the clubhouse he's miserable with his teammates.
$800 million contract. Yeah, he's miserable.
Yeah. Listen, I want to be that miserable.
Right, me too. I'm with you. I wish I could be miserable making $800 million.
So you know what? Soto will be fine. The Mets have 2 more games against the White Sox, and then they have Colorado. So if they beat up on these teams, they'll be fine.
Yeah. And you know what? It's going to be interesting, because you look at a lot of these teams, before we talk about the Yankees, just in the National League alone, right? When you look at the National League, the way it is now, you have the Mets, you have the Phillies, you have Atlanta, the Dodgers, Padres, Giants, Arizona. Out of those 7 teams, 2 of them are not making the playoffs this year, right?
Know. That's
amazing. And they're all, to me, playoff caliber teams, but 2 of them are not making the playoffs. So again, you don't want to be that team that's not going to make it. So to me, I think from now until the trade deadline, I think it's going to come down to, or who makes the playoffs is going to come down to a couple of things. Number one, who could stay the most healthy, right? Who could have the least amount of injuries, major injuries at that, number one. And number two, who's going to make the biggest impactful moves at the trade deadline, right? And because know the Dodgers always, right? They're going to trade for somebody big, right? They'll probably trade for Sandy from the Alcantara from the Marlins, who's pitching horribly right now. But I'm sure if they get him, he's going to be back to his old self, right? So they're gonna make a move. The Phillies, they have a couple of free agents after this year, so they might even make a big move. I'm sure they're gonna make a big move. And the Mets too. I think the Mets are gonna make some moves too. I just don't know, and you'll answer it better than me. But I personally don't think they're gonna make the big move, right? I don't think they're gonna go for like Luis Robert from the White Sox. They're gonna make more the second tier move, right? Those middle, because I don't think they want to get rid of a lot of their top prospects.
No, not now.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Listen, we know that's how Stearns works, right? He likes to make the small moves that make, that it's like a puzzle. He likes to make the small moves and fit it in like a jigsaw puzzle. Catch lightning in a bottle, which he's done so far. I mean, you can't say anything bad about him. So I kind of agree with you. Unless Cohen steps in. If Cohen wants someone, Cohen's going to get that person, that player. Right. But I don't think he's good. I don't think they're going to do anything crazy. I don't think they're going to get parts that fit in with the team, and they're going to do what they did last year, the same thing. So I don't see anybody big. But you never know. Of course, you never know. It depends on what things look like after the All-Star break. But I kind of agree with you. I think that they're going to get small pieces that fit in, that complement the team. And I don't think he's ready to get rid of Acuna or Beatty right now. Beatty, all of a sudden, is starting to play like we thought Beatty was going to play, right? He's hitting. Yep. His fielding's been pretty good. And I'm happy with him now. They sent him down. I guess that woke him up, because when they sent him down, he started to hit, and he was hitting a lot of home runs there. We don't need him to hit home runs all the time. Just, make contact with the ball, get the hits when we need them, and it's going to be fine. So I agree with you on that, Chris.
Yeah. And you know what? I think if they could get Alvarez going too offensively, you know what? That lineup's going to be pretty good. So, and the pitching, we know right now, the pitching has been great. Rotation, bullpen. I would think that's where they might add a player or two, is the bullpen.
Yes. I think so
maybe
too.
A back end of the rotation guy if they can. But yeah, that's the good. And you know what? That's a good thing where they don't have a lot of holes, right? Yeah, they may not be perfect, but no team right now is perfect. So listen, if you don't have bigger issues at the going into the trade deadline, you're not desperate to make a move. You're like, okay, if we could add, this player or that player, yeah, it'd be great, And I think the Yankees are kind of in the same situation, right? Where
Yes.
they're not desperate. Right now, Bob Nightingale had a report Sunday, I think, and said the Yankees were looking very hard at adding a right-handed bat and a starting pitcher. So we'll see where that goes,
Yeah.
because they do have some guys coming back.
Yeah. And with the Mets, they listen, after that, the last couple of series before, with the Yankee series and the Red Sox series where they were just, it was looking bad, especially the Red Sox series. They were not hitting, and to come back and to take 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. And then yesterday's win against the White Sox. The Mets they were 2.5 games out of first when they fell into second behind the Phillies. Now they're 1.5 games. So, things are starting to look a little better now. Soto looks like he's starting to come around, and once that happens, the offense is going to set on fire. And right now it's set up for that. So is the schedule. All right. Yep. They have, they're playing who we want them to play right now. If they beat up on them, the Mets will be fine.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like you said, you got the White Sox now, then you follow it up with the Rockies. Then you go on a West Coast trip. You got the Dodgers for 4 games, really tough, obviously. But then you got Colorado again. So listen, if you could split the Dodgers series and then take care of the Rockies and then head home, then you're doing good. That's awesome. But I think this week, White Sox, Rockies, it should be a clean sweep, but we know what happens, right? Just as we flip it over to the Yankees, basically that's what happened. They ended up taking 2 out of 3, but that first game against the Rockies, they ended up losing 3-2. They were up 2-1 going into the bottom of the 5th, and they were up 2-1, and it just didn't feel right. It didn't have a good feeling. Like it almost felt like we're going to lose this game. Like it just had that, like we weren't hitting. So anyway, of course, they score a couple of runs in the 5th inning, and then we don't score again for the rest of the game. We end up losing 3-2. That should never happen against a team like the Rockies. The Rockies pitching has been awful, right? That's a team that you just got to just score you 5-6 runs, win it, and that's it. But obviously it didn't happen. And you could see it happening in that first game. It's tough getting used to, the thinner air and all that, the altitude. I get it. Trust me. I've been out there a few times, got family out there, and the second I get off the plane, I feel the difference. So I can imagine playing a game and all that. So, but they did come back, win Saturday, blowout. Offense is obviously back. They end up winning 13-1, 14-1. And then that was behind Fareed. And then Sunday, they held on to win 5-4. It was 5-3 in the 9th. Weaver gave up a home run, but they ended up holding on and winning that game. So they took 2 out of 3. I mean, at the end of the day, that's all you could ask for with the Yankees. Just win series. Would have been great to sweep, obviously, but taking 2 out of 3 is just as good. And then on the flip side, we got some really good news from injured players. Stanton's going to start hitting live pitching for a week or 2 down in Florida. So that's good. So he should be back, 3-4 weeks. I don't know how many weeks they're going to give him rehab because he just got a hit. He's got no feeling. Yeah. So I don't know if it's going to take that long of a time, but he hasn't had any. Think about it. He didn't play any spring training games, nothing this year. So they might keep him down there for more than a week. I don't know.
Listen,
yeah,
Chris, you don't need him until the playoffs. We've said this time and time again.
Take your time.
Yeah, let him take his time, right?
I totally agree. Jazz is working his way up. He's going out for some rehab games, so we should have him back in another week or so. Luis Hill is going to start throwing off a mound, so hopefully end of June, early July, we'll get him back. That would be awesome. Cousins is working his way back too. So, I mean, that's the one thing. Stay healthy, get these guys back, and then make those tough decisions when it happens, right? When Stanton comes back and, then, okay, let's see what's happening by then. But as we always say, these problems always figure out themselves some way, somehow, right? Someone else gets hurt.
Right.
Unfortunately, it happens. You guys see it. We see it all the time throughout the league. So I'm really not worried about it until these guys are healthy. So, but it'd be cool to get Jazz back. I know he wasn't hitting great when he left, but it'd be nice to get him back into the lineup. Because the guys at third they're just not doing it. Vivas and Peraza, they're just offensively, they're just not getting it done. Defensively, they're good, but offensively, just not getting it done. So it'd be great to have Jazz back there, playing second or third with DJ. I'm not sure what they're going to figure out, but so we'll see. Like I said, 2 out of 3 against the Rockies. Can't get asked for much more than that. And now they're on the West Coast. They're playing the Angels, and then they head over to the Dodgers. They won yesterday, 5-1. Again, the guy that's really surprising is Yarbrough, the guy we picked up about a month ago. Think about it. He's taken over for Carrasco. Carrasco, like you said, he was just an automatic loss when he's pitching. You know what I mean? So, he's just finished in his career. He's at that age where it's just he's clinging on to whatever is left of him. It's sad to see sometimes when a veteran is like that, but I can't fault the guy for trying. But Yarbrough's been great. Ryan Yarbrough is either a long reliever or now he's back in the starter, and he's pitching great. Last night, 6 innings, 1 run. He only gave up the leadoff home run to Neto, and that was it. Zach Neto, not Neto. So we're looking good so far in this West Coast trip, man. If we could take at least 2 out of 3 against the Angels and then the rematch against the Dodgers, right? The World Series rematch. I'm sure a lot of those guys want that team, especially now, like the Dodgers have what? I think we talked about it last week. Like 13 guys, 14 starting pitchers or pitchers in general on the IL right now. I think that's insane. And they're still
Listen, Chris, and it's crazy because they do not skip a beat.
No.
If someone gets injured, they have someone else who's really good to take the place of that person. It's going to be a good series. Yankees against Dodgers. We'll see what happens when the Yankees get out there. Those West Coast trips are brutal on East Coast teams, but right now, so far, the Yankees have been all right. I had a question for you. What about Marcus Stroman, Chris? What's going on with him?
I don't know. I think he's probably trying to rehab somewhere. I'm sure the Yankees are in no rush to get him back, so they're taking their time with him. I don't know. It was whenever the only updates we ever got from him was basically, he had more discomfort in his knee or something like that. That's all we kind of heard. So I don't think he's anywhere near coming back. And I'll be honest, I think he's thrown his last pitch as a Yankee. It would not, surprise me to see him not come back for us. It would not. And right now, especially the way he was pitching, he's not going to get the 140 innings that he needed to get the option year next year. So that's out, obviously. But yeah, I don't think we'll see him again in a Yankee uniform. I think it's ended.
You know what? And that's one of the best things that could happen to the Yankees, really, as you know. Judge still going strong. I'll tell you. What did he have? 2 home runs in Colorado?
Yeah, I think so.
Number 17 and number 18 he had.
Yeah. Listen, the guy is he's unbelievable. what we're seeing, he's at 398 right now, 18 homers, 47 RBIs. He's leading the league in batting average, on base, slugging, OPS plus. Just about everything. Total bases, WAR, runs, hits. He's just unbelievable. And you know what? And it's sad, but that the monkey on his back is going to be there until he has a big postseason, right? It's going to be there. I'm appreciating him no matter what. I try to, I don't know. Someone compared him today to Mattingly, because Mattingly played 5 postseason games in his whole career. Didn't win a championship, obviously. He was on some bad teams. But you know what? In those 5 games that he played in the postseason, he hit great. You know what I mean? Like he was the Don Mattingly of old in the playoffs that series against Seattle in '95. But yeah, you know what? I think the guy just puts too much pressure on himself going into the playoffs. Like he has to do it all. He has to have that moment. And he had a couple of moments this past postseason. He wasn't totally awful. But yeah, he needs that big postseason, man, to really, I don't know. He's still going to go down as one of the greatest Yankees to ever play. He's going to get his number retired, all that,
Of
obviously
course.
we know that already. But yeah, to have a championship, you know what? You don't want to be one of the only two guys that did win a championship as a Yankee. That's in Monument Park, right? With Mattingly. But
Right.
hopefully they win one. It'd be great if it's this year, but we'll see. I mean, when you look at these teams, the Yankees, the Mets, like, yeah, maybe right now the power rankings I've seen, like the Yankees are number one. But I mean, let's be honest, they're all kind of on the same level, right? The Yankees, the Mets, the Phillies, Dodgers, Padres, they're all really good. Are they perfect teams? No, right? They got tons of injuries, maybe, like Seattle, right? They're playing really good, but I don't know if it's going to last, right? They have really good pitching, but we talk about it. Their offense,
Yeah.
it's not scaring you, right? Especially going into the playoffs. That looks like an offense you're going to be able to shut down easily, right? Detroit, I like a lot, but again, is that an offense? Is that offense going to do it for you in the playoffs, right? Against the better pitching every night? I don't know. So we'll see.
And it's the dog days of summer too that they have to get through,
Yes.
but when August comes around and everybody's a little tired, and the teams that are gonna be strong are the teams that are strong. So we'll see, but so far so good. It's been a really, really exciting baseball season so far, and you can't ask for more, especially for the Mets and Yankees. A little bumps in the road, but I'm not worried right now. But
No.
like you said before, two of those teams in that list are not going to make the postseason. That's a lot of good teams that are fighting for the postseason. So,
Yep.
The stretch is going to be really, really fun.
And you know what? The one team we're not talking about, especially in the National League, I mentioned the 7 teams that, 5 of them are going to make the playoffs. 2 of them isn't, or not, I should say. But the one team we're not talking about is the Cubs, right? They're only up, I think, 3 games in their division, right? The Central, we kind of throw away, but they're leading the league in runs right now for an offense. So this one came up earlier today on X. You could see the Cubs, they are averaging 6 runs a game, and they're going to be the first team since, I think it said it right here also. Chicago is pacing to become the first major league team to average 6 or more runs per game since the 2000 White Sox, and the first National League team to do it since the 53 Dodgers.
That's an amazing stat.
Yeah.
Listen, the Cubs are good. The Cubs, just because they're in that National League Central, like you said, they're 33-21. They're 3 games ahead of St. Louis, which, look at St. Louis, Chris. They were like left for dead, and now they're right up there.
Yeah, exactly. So, like we're kind of, kind of not really looking at the Central, but you know what? The Cubs are playing really good. They're scoring runs, and their ace is out, Imaga, right?
Yeah.
If he comes back,
right.
That's just going to make them better. So that's going to be a team to watch going up to the trade deadline too, because will they go big? Because they, there's no, obviously there's no guarantee that Tucker is going to re-sign there, right? Because he's a free agent. Are they going to go all in for this year because they have Tucker and he's having a great season? Like, are they going to go all in and say, all right, you know what? Just almost like the Yankees last year with Soto. Like there was no guarantee he was going to re-sign with us. And he obviously didn't. So it might be the same thing with Tucker, because once Tucker gets into free agency, think about the frenzy of all the big sharks, right? When you think about it, that are going to be going for him, right? Both New York's teams might be going for him. The Dodgers, obviously, they see anything they want that they're going to get. So I'm sure they're going to be looking for Tucker, and who knows who else is going to be in on him. So I don't know if the Cubs feel that strongly that they're going to re-sign him. So they might be going big time for it right now, and they might make the big move for somebody.
They might. We'll see. It's going to be interesting trade deadline when we get there, definitely. But let's talk about before we move on to something else. Let's just talk about this Colorado team for a minute. We've been talking about them a lot, but okay, they won Friday night's game against the Yankees. They've only won 9 games. They're 9-45 with a .167 winning percentage. They're 25 games behind LA, and it's the end of May. That's awful.
It is. It's awful, and it's not going to get any better for them. That's the other thing. Like they got, it's not like they're going to bring up somebody that's going to like turn everything around. There's nobody coming. Their farm system isn't that great, so they got nothing. So, and look at the division they're in. They're in a division where we just talked about them. You got 4 teams that are, that could be in the playoffs this year. So I don't know. Listen, the Rockies are in for a long road of nothing for the next few years, sadly. Max Fried made the Rockies into pebbles. Yes, they did. He did, I should say, on that was the Saturday game. But I feel bad because the Rockies, I'm telling you, they're kind of screwed because they're in for a long haul here where it's just bad. When what they should do is clean house, trade who they can, like keep your players that you want to build around. I think we talked about this last week or the week before. Like just keep the players you want around and that's it. The rest trade away, because you're going to be bad for the next few years. So start building up that farm system and maybe in 2 or 3 years they all kind of click. And they all get better, and maybe one of the other teams in your division don't, and you could try to sneak in to the playoffs. I mean, I think right. I don't know what else to tell them. They're in a bad spot. The Rockies, they're in like basically what Baltimore was a few years ago, right before they started getting all their guys. But I think that's what they got to do. They just got to be bad for a few years.
They have to do something. Do you just look at this? If they keep, and they're going to keep playing like this, they could actually, by the time June 1st gets here, they could go into June without having double-digit wins, okay? That's insane. Major League Baseball team.
Yeah, and they haven't won a series yet either.
That's they haven't won a series. It's almost June. That's crazy. I mean, they are major league ball players. It's horrible. It really is.
It is.
And do we want to talk about it real quick for another minute? This is what you say about, the salary cap. What they definitely need to have something for the basement. These teams have to spend money because it's just, I don't know. Our franchise is going to have to move. It's ridiculous what's going on.
Yeah, and the Rockies, they're not the bottom. They've spent 140 million, so they're not awful. But yeah, they could. I mean, think about it. If they signed Juan Soto, right, and added 40-something million to their payroll, would they be much better right now? I don't think so.
and then you could say Soto is unhappy with that contract. And
right. Yeah, then you could say he's miserable. Yeah, I think I'd be miserable playing in Colorado right now. As nice as the city as it is and as nice as Coors Field is, I would be miserable. But yeah, it's going to be bad. And I think, listen, they should bring in a GM that knows how to rebuild a team, because the GM that they have seriously has no plan, right? Every year I always feel like, what do they do? Like, what's their plan here? Like, well, what are they trying to do? Right. So I don't know. I think they got to sell at the deadline, obviously. Sell who you can, keep a couple of guys, obviously, but for the most part, just sell off all the pieces you can. Listen, you're not going to do what the Nationals did with Soto, right? Turned him into 5 primetime play. I mean, you could see the Nationals, right? They got all they brought up another guy this week, right? That they got in that trade. So they got 4 guys now on their roster that they got from that trade. I mean, you just don't see that often, right? We've seen, the one-star player get traded for 4 or 5 guys and they all stink, right? Or they're all like, right? Well, they're all like not great players. I mean, these kids look really good for the Nationals.
Hey, Chris, could I go back in time, like way, way back in time when the Mets traded Seaver? There you go. That
right, there you go. Who'd you get for Seaver?
You got Pat Zachary, Steve Henderson, Doug Flynn, and Dan Norman. All right, for Tom Seaver at the time, the best pitcher in baseball. And listen, I don't even want to think about that.
Right. Zachary was okay for you, right? He was an okay starter, right?
He was all right, but Steve Henderson was the best out of the bunch because he had, the last half of 77 when, after the trade, he had a little power and pop and maybe 78. But that trade, I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, terrible. The Rockies, yeah. Obviously, yeah, they're going to still want to get people there, but I don't know how they're going to do it because right now, look how bad the team is. I don't see them adding guys, before the deadline. So they got to be honest with their fans and just say, listen, this team is just not doing it. We have to have a major rebuild here. We're going to be bad for a couple of years, just like the Orioles went through it. Right. Obviously they fell apart this year, but that's a whole other story. But at least they were bad for a couple of years and then they got good, because but you also got to draft well too. You can't just say, okay, we'll get high draft picks for the next 3 years and we'll be fine. That's no guarantee. You still got to draft well. You still got to, develop these kids. So we'll see, but I don't see this franchise turning around anytime soon. So it's going to be dark days for the Rockies, for the next few years.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's sad. It is sad. I have to agree. It's a sad situation. So we'll see. The rest of the season is going to be fun, man. There's a lot of good teams now, or teams that aren't as good as they should be and all that. So I think the races are going to be really tight all year, except for the Rockies, obviously. Even the White Sox got more wins than them, and we know how bad the White Sox are. So, but
the White Sox are one of the happiest teams in baseball right now because it's going to just be 1 year where they had the most losses and the less wins, I mean. And then that's it because the Rockies are going to crush that record.
Yeah, the Rockies, are averaging, let's say 5 wins a month, right? So you got, when you think about it, that's 5 wins a month. So you got June left, July, August, September. You got 4 more months. So that's 20 more wins they're going to get.
That's
so they're going to have 30 wins by the end of the year. That's awful.
Imagine that. They may win less than 40 games this year unless they go on a big hot winning streak, but
I don't see that happening.
It's crazy. But yeah, the rest of the season is going to be a lot of fun and, still a lot of baseball to be played. It's not even All-Star break yet. We have a month and a couple of weeks till then. So, it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, we were going to have a discussion with some players that have not been into the Hall of Fame yet, that have not got inducted into the Hall of Fame. Maybe that should get another look. So we're going to start, doing one each week or each show. We're going to start at first base and then work our way around the whole diamond and, kind of see if there's any players that are not in the Hall of Fame that maybe deserve another shot. So this week we're going to start at first base. Obviously, it's we got to totally knock out, obviously, Pujols and Miguel Cabrera, right? They're not in the Hall of Fame, but once they're available, on the ballot, they're in first ballot. No question, right? So
no question.
We'll start with guys that are either playing or just stop playing. So this way, and then we'll get into some of the older veterans. But what do you think of? I wanted to ask you, what do you think of Joey Votto?
I think Joey Votto is he's one of those players that are on the cusp. He's on the edge. where it could go either way. I mean, great first baseman for Cincinnati. Obviously he played for Cincinnati when Cincinnati wasn't that great, but my opinion is Votto could go either way. I don't know if he's really going to get elected to the Hall of Fame, but listen, if he doesn't, it's all right. And if he does, more power to him. But he's one of those players that we talk about a lot that are just right on the line. What do you think?
Yeah, I do. And I think he's one of those guys that, we're in the new era with analytics and all that. I think he's the one guy that's kind of like the poster boy for it, because of the on-base percentage that he has, 409 career on-base percentage. Yeah, he doesn't have the big home run numbers for a first baseman. He's only got 356, which is still pretty good. I'm not taking anything away from him, but average just under 300 at 294. Just a consistent guy. MVP 1 year, 6-time All-Star, Gold Glover. I think he's going to get in. He may not be a first ballot, but I think he gets in. He got MVP votes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years in his career.
Yeah.
Winning it once, third place once, twice sixth place. So yeah, rookie of the year, second place rookie of the year. I think he gets in eventually. He may not be first ballot, but I think we'll see Joey Votto in. Jeff Kent, I've been on.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
When we get to second base, trust me, he's one of my guys. I've been screaming that he should be in.
That's right.
So, all right. So I both of us think Votto probably gets in. Maybe not first ballot, but he'll get in. What do you think of a guy that's playing now? What do you think of Paul Goldschmidt?
Paul.
Let's look at his numbers.
Listen, bring up his numbers because I thought he was finished last year. I really did, and with the Yankees, I mean, he's just so far so good.
Right. Yeah, no, he's been great, and look at the career numbers. I mean, he's same thing with him, 367 home runs, 1,200 RBIs, batting average is about the same, 290, on base, a little lower. He's at 382. He's another one that this new let's be honest, 500 home runs is something that we may not see again anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right about that.
Right. So,
right.
Just like with the wins, right? We're not seeing 300 wins again. So, I think he's right there. He's one of those on the border. If he has a big year this year, and if he comes back another year and has another good year, gets over 400 home runs, maybe that puts him over the top. I don't know.
Yeah, if he gets over 400 home runs, if he has a couple of, like you said, this year, he's been playing great for the Yankees. If he has a big year, another one or two, maybe. But he's one of those players, like I said, with Votto, that's just right on the line, and it could go either way, So he's one of those players.
I hope, Matthew Ryan, I hope you're wrong. No, because he's a Yankee. Listen, he's more known to be with St. Louis and Arizona, right? That's where we know his career was. And I'm going to say no. I'm going to disagree and say that if he gets in, fine. But if he doesn't get in, I don't think it's going to be because he was a Yankee for this year. And,
I don't think
what if they sign him for another year? I don't know. I don't think, but yeah, I know that there is some bias against the Yankees. I get it. We see it, and we'll talk about somebody coming up in a second.
Yeah.
So, I think he's borderline, but a little bit lower than Votto on the borderline. Votto,
I agree with you.
Yeah, I think he inches up and in. Another guy playing now, I think, is definitely going in is Freddie Freeman.
Oh, right? Yeah. Yeah. There's not even an argument unless something really bad happens and his career ends now. He's going in. I mean,
MVP.
I think that's
World Series MVP, Gold Glove, 8-time All-Star, won the World Series twice, 3-time Silver Slugger, and who knows if he's going to win again. but his numbers too are below the 400 home run mark. He's at 352. His average is a little higher than the two we talked about, 301. On base is a little bit lower, right? At 388. Like Votto had to over 400. I think that's what's going to really get him up there. And you could see all the MVP votes that he's gotten over his career. He got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In 10 of his 16 years so far, he's gotten MVP votes.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
I mean, I like Freeman's chances, especially with he's on this great Dodger team, and that's not ending anytime soon. Let's face it, So
and look at the double, 522.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It is insane. So I got both of us, I guess, agree that Freeman probably gets in.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think he's a first ballot guy.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, all right, so we got to talk about it because we're a New York show. So both are first basemen, right? Keith Hernandez, Don Mattingly, famously are not in the Hall of Fame. Let's start with Keith Hernandez. Gold Glove. He's got the most for a first baseman, right? He's got 11 Gold Gloves. 2-time World Series champion, 2-time Silver Slugger, MVP, 5-time All-Star. He won a batting title, yada, yada, yada. The offensive numbers, right, especially for a first baseman, that's what's keeping him out. Let's be honest. Well,
that and something else, which we'll talk about in a second. Okay? Yeah, he has 162 home runs. He has 1,071 RBIs. Okay, for a first baseman. He batted 296. 2,182 hits. Okay? But there wasn't a better fielding first baseman than Keith Hernandez. Okay? He was in charge of that infield. If it was with the Cardinals, definitely the Mets, it didn't matter. Keith, he's just a great fielder. So to me, that offense, that sets off the offense, which isn't terrible, by the way, batting 296. Okay, It's not the power numbers for a first baseman, but still the runs that he saved with his glove and just his leadership. Listen, his leadership on the Mets. When the Mets traded Neil Allen for Keith Hernandez, they turned the whole thing around. Okay, they went from the losing attitude, and we even, we talked to Ed Lynch about this when he was on our show, to the winning attitude, and that was because of Keith. Keith, another monkey on his back. Is it because of the drugs? Is it because of the problem with coke and that whole thing that happened in the 80s? Could that be one of the reasons? It might be. By now, it should not be, because it's not the same thing as steroids, because steroids is cheating. That's just, something that happened. And the 80s, those guys, I'm sure especially the Mets, they were partying, they were. But I think it's a sin that Keith Hernandez is not in the Hall of Fame. And I think they have to write that, because he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. What do you think?
Yeah, I for his glove, yeah, definitely. I mean, 11-time Gold Glove. Right. Like the offense is not there especially for a first baseman. Think about it. He never hit 20 home runs in a season. His most was 18, drove in 100 RBIs once in his career. He did lead the league once in batting average, once in on base career, but like just a steady career, right? Just under 300 for his career. So, I mean, I think he should go in, like you said, for his glove. Yeah. Cause if he's not the greatest fielding first baseman, the other guy in New York is, right. I think they're pretty right on. They're pretty online with each other defensively. Because watching Mattingly, I still haven't seen. For me, I have not seen a better first baseman fielding since Mattingly. Like nobody. I've seen really good first baseman, especially with the Yankees. right? Teixeira was really good. Tino was really good, but nothing like Mattingly. Mattingly, for me, was the best I ever seen. Obviously, you got to see Keith every day.
Yes.
So we kind of feel the same way about each guy. I think either one, if you say is the best, I'll agree, obviously. But I think he has 9 Gold Gloves for his career, Mattingly. I don't think he had 11. Let's see if I'm right.
Yeah, Mattingly has 9 Gold Gloves, and he's a 6-time All-Star.
3-time Silver Slugger, batting title, MVP, 6-time All-Star.
Both of them won the MVP. So both
for that reason. Yeah. I just listen. Yeah, if I had to vote, I would definitely vote for Mattingly. He just didn't have the, the career numbers that, that you obviously want to see. Same thing with Keith. Like, you don't have the big power numbers. For Mattingly, he had that 5-year stretch where he was arguably the best player in baseball, right? And then the back went out on him, and then he was just bad. Not bad, but he was just, you could tell he was just not the same player after that. But he's another guy. Yeah. I mean, it's sad that happened to him with the back, and otherwise he was a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame easily. I mean, you're talking about a guy who was great for 5 years. And the most amazing thing that has ever happened was Mattingly holds the record for most Grand Slams in a season, right?
Right.
Hit. And those were the only Grand Slams he ever hit in his career, were the ones that broke the record.
You know what, Chris? Maybe we'll put up a poll on X/Twitter this week. Maybe that'll be our poll.
Yeah, who should get in the Hall of Fame? Who would you, if you had one vote? Which player would you vote?
Which New York player? Or we could add another one.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good to me. I want to throw in a name. Okay, and this is someone who, steroid era, of course. Mark McGwire. What are your thoughts about Mark McGwire?
I think he should be in. I think they should all be in. If you're talking about McGwire, if you're talking about any of them, I think they should all be in. That's how I feel about the steroid guys. The really good ones, obviously, like Bonds, Clemens, McGwire. I mean, all those guys should be in. McGwire, these guys should be in. Palmeiro. I get it that they use steroids, but you know what? They weren't testing back then. It was basically, the league was like, okay, you can't do it. And then they kind of turned around and didn't do anything about it because they were, reaping the success of the league at the time. So to me, like, those guys should be in. And when you look at the records in Major League Baseball, the home run leaders, right? Who's first in home run leaders? Barry Bonds, right? He's got the most home runs ever. There's no asterisk. There's no, he used steroids for, 200 of these home runs. Shouldn't count because he was using, we don't know. That's the thing. Yeah, it definitely affected them. But how much more did they get, right? And that's why I think Major League Baseball can't do anything with the record book because it happened, right? You can't just say, okay, this guy used steroids. All right, his stats don't count. That makes no sense. So to me, if you're counting their stats, they should be a Hall of Fame. And you know what? Put on the plaque, played during the steroid era and was suspected of taking steroids.
Yeah, that's true. Because let's face it, in different decades, guys did different things, right? Players in the 40s, players in the 50s, they were doing, in the 50s and 60s, they were doing speed. They were doing, whatever they were doing. Players have always done something to get the up with their performance. So this and like you said, baseball turned a blind eye to it because look Sosa and McGwire with the home run race. Okay, baseball loved it, right?
Of course,
it was bringing people in, the ratings. So nothing was said about that. They let it happen. They knew what was going on. They had to know what was going on.
Imagine, look at that 1998 year for McGwire. 70 home runs, 147 RBIs. led the league in walks, 299 batting average, 470 on base, slugging 752, OPS 1222. Like, look at that year, and he finished second in the MVP.
I know that is so funny. You're right.
That's insane.
70 home runs, and he's second. Oh man.
Yeah.
So I do think there should be an asterisk on the plaque saying that they played in the steroid era. Okay, yeah. I think that should be done. So I agree with you there, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys should be in the Hall of Fame. They really should, because there are guys in the Hall of Fame that took steroids, but again, they didn't test positive or whatever. But you knew they tested. Like, you knew a couple of these guys did it. So just put them in. You know, it's sad. Like, how are you keeping guys like Barry Bonds? We're never gonna see that player ever again. Like, that's just ridiculous numbers.
Yeah.
You know?
And the thing with Barry Bonds is he hit like that before he did steroids.
He was a Hall of Famer before it. Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And you can look at his numbers. We'll when we talk outfielders, we'll get more into him, but without a doubt, you know, it's to me, it's, I don't know. I think they should be in. And then Palmeiro, if you want to look at his numbers real quick, you know, he's another one. 3-time Gold Glove. Well, 1 year he shouldn't have won it, but that goes without saying. But 500 home runs, 3,000 hits. You know, like, this is a guy that's a Hall of Famer. And it's sad that these guys are not going in. You know, it just, I don't know. Kurt Schilling, yeah, definitely 3,000 Ks without a doubt. And his playoff, the way he pitched in the playoffs, 100% he should be in. Clemens too. Yeah, when we get to pitchers, we'll bring these guys up for sure. But first baseman, I think that's it. I mean, you want to throw in, I mean, the guys that from, like, say the 80s, 90s, like Will Clark, Mark Grace, I think they're kind of in the same category. Really good, but just a little,
but not
short.
Hall of Fame. Yeah, Mark Grace, really good, not Hall of Famer. Right.
Will Clark, same thing. One guy who I thought of that's kind of gets overlooked, and I don't know why, is Carlos Delgado. He put up some big time power numbers, right?
Right.
483 career home runs.
I loved him when he was a Met. I really did. I did. He was great. So yeah, he does get overlooked.
He needed one more good year to get that 500 home runs.
Yeah.
Right? Because if he does, he's at 483. If he hits 17 more, he definitely would have got it. I think if he hits 500 home runs, he's in.
Yeah. I agree with you. He is, he's not mentioned in the same sentence as the other great first basemen. But listen, watching Delgado as a Met, I mean, and we know what he did for Toronto, and we know, just how great he was. But as a Met, he was great as a Met too.
Yep. I forgot he played 1 year with Florida, and he had a big year with Florida too. I totally forgot about that year.
Oh yeah, that's right.
60 MVPs. Another guy who got MVP 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years out of his 17 that he played. Led the league in RBIs once, doubles once. Yeah, he's definitely very good. But again, if he hits 17 more home runs, we're talking about him as a Hall of Famer, right?
That's right. That's all it took. 17. That's all it would have taken. 17 home runs.
And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but but yeah, I think first base. Yeah, you got a couple of guys that should have gotten a little bit more look. A little more of a look than they didn't.
And we'll talk about other players like Clemens and Kent when we do the other positions. So
yeah, second base is next. But trust me, I've got at least 3 or 4 guys that trust me, that I'll be screaming about. Trust me, that should be in.
And we've talked about that before. So we've talked about Kent. So we'll next show we'll definitely do second baseman, definitely.
Yep. So definitely look out for that for sure. We got anything else, Rob? Or
I'm good. I just want to say quick things. Welcoming our people from X, and we're starting to build up the our following on X, which is good. And YouTube, we're getting there. So we appreciate anyone out there who has not subscribed to our channel yet. Like it, subscribe it. We're gonna have great baseball stuff throughout the whole season and off season, and we're going to have more guests. We've had a bunch of guests. If you haven't checked out the Chauncey Hayden show from last week, check it out. The guy is awesome. You're going to crack up. He has a story about Don Mattingly that you're going to be on the floor with. So I would recommend checking out our show with Chauncey Hayden. And we're going to reach out to ex-Met pitcher Ed Lynch again, and he said he'd love to come back anytime we want him to come back. So in the middle of the season somewhere, we're going to reach out to him, bring him back, talk about what he thinks about Soto and the rest of the season. So that's all I got to say, Chris. Our next show is going to be Friday. We don't know if it's going to be 3 p.m. or if we're going to do a night show on Friday. So we'll set it up on the schedule and we'll let everyone know.
Yeah. And listen, thank you again for all the new subscribers. And if you haven't hit subscribe, hit that subscribe button for us on YouTube for sure. Follow us on Twitter, like we said, at NYMLB Talk, Rob at Maraska, at myself at CP7NY. Give us follows there as well. If you guys ever want to join us on the show, drop us a line on Twitter/X and we'll set it up, man. We love having guests. So whether it's fans, whether it's somebody else or whoever, bring it on. We love having debates. We love talking sports, baseball. So definitely come on and we'll set it up. But otherwise, we'll see you guys next week.
All right.
Next
Thanks,
episode.
everybody. Thank you.